Hey, transformational prevention again. Oh my. I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't you, you want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't you, you want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. But we are stuck to accept you, take my hand and know me better. Hey, know me better, love me better. Hey, take me better, love me better. It's the Transformational Parenting Show with Mute Olori.
Man is a product of his perspective. And like the word says, as a man thinketh, so he is. Therefore, the mental health of a man forms his life. And if he wants to change his life, then he needs to change the way he thinks. Many people do not understand that a parent needs to be mentally stable to be able to raise children who are also mentally stable. That a parent must understand the psychology of children so that they can better parent them from a stable point of view. Today on the show, we're going to be focusing on mental health and parenting, especially for adolescents and teenagers. My guest on the show is a psychologist, the convener of Parenting Support System, the author of the book Smart Parenting, amongst others. Her name is Oluwatoyin Ogunkanmi. When I come back from this break, she will be taking us through the journey of mental health and stability in parenting. You're welcome to the show. My name is Mute Olori. Please don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
It's the Transformational Parenting Show with Mute Olori.
All right, welcome back. It's the Transformational Parenting Show, and we are talking mental health and parenting today, especially for adolescents and teenagers. And my guest, Oluwatoyin, she's right here. You're welcome on the show.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. So, what level of fitness, mental fitness, is expected of every parent?
Well, in parenting, we say parenting starts with the parent. Every parent needs to be mentally stable, emotionally stable, physically fit to raise a child that is awesome. And for you to be able to raise that child to become whoever you want the child to become, you need to be mentally stable.
So
And
first of all,
the
as a
level-
parent, you must, first of all, know what you want your child to become.
You should know who you're raising. It's like your parenting should start from the end in mind. What type of child do you want to raise? What type of adult do you want to produce to the society? So whoever you want to raise, you should be mentally stable to raise that type of child. So it's very important for parents to know that you need to be in a place where you are aware of yourself emotionally, where you can cope with everyday living, where you can work and you're productive. You can function effectively in the society, and you can also contribute to the society. And that means you are mentally stable.
So the opposite of this.
Means you have mental health disorders.
So when you don't have a job to be able to provide for your children, does that mean the things you mentioned that must be in place?
Yeah.
We've seen in society today that many of what you mentioned are really not in place because maybe circumstances do happen. A man gets a job today, the next time he's losing his job, the economy is unstable itself, so it affects you as a parent. So, but we really do not pay attention to these things and see them as having any effect on us.
They actually do have effect on us. So for example, you have a parent that doesn't have a job. Parent is going out there looking for a job, looking for work to do. And there are certain needs he needs to do. There are certain things he needs to provide in the home. And he's not able to provide those things. Before you know it, the parents start transferring the aggression on the children. The fact that he cannot provide for the children or for the family. The parents start transferring aggression to the children. But mental health in all is just a state of well-being. It's a state of well-being where you are aware of yourself, you're aware of your reality, you're aware of your abilities, you know what you're doing, you know where you are, you know who you are as a person. Then it's also a state where you are capable of coping with everyday life. It's not everyone that can cope with everyday stress. You know the stress in Nigeria. It's not everyone that can cope with that. Some people are depressed. Some people have a panic attack because they just can't cope with everyday living. So if you're in that state where you can cope with everyday living, you're in that state where you can raise your children without having to lash out at them at every point, at every interval. You're in that place where you can cope, you can walk. I would say you're mentally okay, you're mentally stable. Yeah, you have great mental health.
Now, I would come
Back to that.
you. Have you ever, before you got here, that you like kind of know about
Mental health.
mental health? How important was it to you to develop that?
Okay, so while I became a parent, I say the story all the time. I realized that I was not in that frame of mind. I was always not in that frame of mind I was always shouting at my children, basically. And I realized that this is not the best way to raise children. And as a psychologist, I had to dig deep within myself. I had to go for more courses, for more studies, because I wanted to be whole. I wanted to be that parent that would be able to raise a wholesome child, would be able to raise a child that is well balanced. It's very important.
You said something that you realized in your when you started having children and parenting.
Yes.
You realized that you don't need to yell at them. Does yelling and raising your voice to correct the children, does it have any effect on them?
It actually has some psychological effects on children, and also has psychological effects on the parents themselves. For example, you have a child that you're always shouting at, you're always screaming at. The child will not trust you. Certain things will be happening to the child. The child wouldn't want to talk to you about it, because what will be going on the mind of the child? Oh, my mom, she would just, if I should tell her this, I should just shout at me, she should just scream at me. You're breaking the trust that you're meant to have, because you're meant to be like a support system to your children. Your children should be able to come to you and tell you anything and everything. But when you do this shouting, this yelling, you are breaking the child. You're not allowing the child to grow in terms of having good self-esteem, good self-worth. The child will not see himself or herself as someone that's important. And that's why I said it has psychological effects on the child, and even on you, the parent. You're always shouting, you're always screaming. Your blood pressure will go high. You have headache. You know, all those things. It's just like a ripple effect. And that's why I said you need to be emotionally stable to raise children.
So where do we cut the line between corrective parenting and aggressive parenting?
So it's very important that at every point in time as a parent, you need to know what your triggers are. You need to know what are the things that your children would do that would make you aggressive, make you shout or whatever. What are the things that get me angry? What are the things that get me upset? What are the things that my children would do that can get me to start shouting and screaming at them?
You worked with parents.
Oh, yes, I do.
What are the things they tell you are the triggers?
Okay. Firstly, you know, when I started, I said parenting starts with you, the parents. Most times, parents tend to transfer aggression. Maybe they're coming from work, they're tired, they're coming from work, maybe things did not work out well from wherever they're coming from. And when they get home, because the children are helpless, they tend to transfer their aggression to them. That's the first.
All, they can't beat me.
After she can't beat me, you understand? That's the first thing, parents. That's first stage.
It's the transformation of parenting show with Mute Olori.
Another thing I've realized is discipline.
Okay.
Fact that children will be children. There are certain things children would do. But if you've not taken your time to teach and train them, we tend to just, the easiest thing to do is to shout at them or to beat them. It's very easy. Because it's easier to shout and scream than to take your time to teach your child that this is what you're meant to do. When next you want to get water from the water dispenser, you carry the cup, ensure that you don't make the water to be filled to the brim, and you go. But you know that is actually time. But it's easier for parents to, bah, 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 why would you do that? You start screaming, you start shouting. So discipline, very important.
Wow, we're so quick to, can't you understand? Are you not listening? I've told you. And then when you find out, how many times have you told the child, so I should continue, but they are good or older? But we found out that the most difficult here in parenting is the adolescent and the teenage age.
Yes, yeah.
Why is it the most challenging for parents? Because there are times when we see parents bringing up children at the tender age, they're so loving, and then you hear a mother say, oh, my child is, this, and when the parents say sit, the child will say, how well do you want to sit, stand, they're so excited. You come back, they're running to you, mommy, daddy, you're back. But once they get to that adolescent age and teenage, you come back, some barely even recognize the fact that you just walked in, so you see parents change, from that loving to this person that does not understand, this child. Why is that age really very challenging?
Okay, so in my book, Help, Who is the Stranger in My Home? I actually wrote that book because of this stage, because I realized that I had a lot of clients saying, I just don't understand my child anymore. My child used to be very loving, my child used to be very peaceful, but now it's just like a stranger in my home. So the first thing parents need to know is that once your child becomes an adolescent, there are lots of changes that would happen in the life of that child, because the adolescent years is a transition period for the child. Your child is transitioning from childhood into adulthood, and that takes like 10 years. So many changes will be happening in the life of the child. Your child will start developing cognitively, your child will start developing psychosocial, your child will start developing in terms of his physical body and all that. So the child that you used to say sit, and the child would sit, all of a sudden the child is now thinking for himself. He has developed abstract thinking skills. And it's no more black and white. You now notice that there are grays in between. Mommy, you said this before, but now that I've seen it, I don't think this is right. So the child is starting to think for himself. And because the child is starting to think for himself, and the child now has a voice, before the child is anything you tell the child to do, that the child will do. And it was more of control based then. Sit down there, the child will sit down. Stand up there, the child. But now the child has a voice, the child is thinking. And because the child is thinking now, the child now wants to start talking. The child wants his voice to be heard. The child is now a thinking machine, so it's no more go and sit down. No. The child wants to say, Mommy, I don't think this is right. Mommy, I've looked at these things and I feel we should do it this way and that way. So for parents that do not understand that their child or their children are changing,
which is developmental.
Yes, which is developmental. They tend to have problems with the children. The another thing I tell parents is this: see, even before the child becomes an adolescent, you should prepare yourself for that adolescent years. Your child is changing, so your parenting strategy too needs to change. The way you were raising the child when the child was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will not be the same way you raise the child. Now the child is a teenager. It will be more of a supportive parenting, supportive strategy. You speak with the child, ask questions, because this is the period they'll be asking me a lot of questions. Mommy, why? 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 And you're like, why are you questioning me? But the child just needs to get more information. So for parents that do not know that their children are developing, their children are becoming smarter, that children are thinking abstractly, it becomes a problem in the family. And that's when there's always this disparity, there's always this conflict. Mom is fighting, the child is slamming the door, mom is shouting, come back here, I'll throw my shoe at you, you know, all those things. But for parents that understand that, see, my child is developing, my child now has a voice, my child is now thinking abstractly, and I now have to start treating my child like the adult he will become. Unless there will always be quarrel and trouble in the homes.
Okay, the scenario that you painted, I'm sure a lot of us are saying, yes, that is what happens. How dare, how do? Okay, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, my guest will tell us how we can begin to create that balance so that we can get it all put together, which will help us to actually grow and raise the adults that we want our children to become. Please don't go away. I'll be right back.
Transformational Parenting Show with Ute Olori.
All right, welcome back. That was very exciting. If you are just joining us, you meet quite a lot on the show today. The stability of parents in parenting, especially teenagers and adolescents. So, how do we create the balance? How do we create this balance so that we also can have it put together? I don't think it should start when they're really at that age.
No. So for you to now, so like I said before we went on break, I said you need to now know that the way you're going to raise your adolescent will be different from the way you were raising him before. I said it's more of support space, and this should start before the child becomes an adolescent. An adolescent years actually start between the ages of 10 all the way to early 20s, maybe like 21, 22. That's when you have your adolescence. So you have the early stage of adolescence, you have the middle stage of adolescence, and you have the late or later stage of adolescence. Now for parents, it's very important that there are certain things you need to put in place before your child becomes an adolescent. The first thing is you need to have an open channel of communication. Your child should be able to talk to you. Your child should be able to come to you. There are certain things that will be, especially when they get to middle school, there are a lot of things that happen during middle school. That's where you have bullying. That's when children start experimenting with alcohol. Some start experimenting with drugs. So if you don't
That's when the sex talk also coming.
The sex talk should have even started before they become adolescents. The sex talk should be an ongoing conversation in the home. So by the time your child becomes an adolescent, because of the changes happening in your child or happening with that age group, they tend to affiliate more, or they tend to affiliate more towards their age group. Maybe their peers become more important to them than the parents. That's when parents will be like, but my child doesn't talk to me again.
So what do we do?
You should have opened. You should have.
Okay, now I didn't have it. What do I do? I'm here now. I'm stuck.
Okay, so
what do I do?
So what you need to do now is that you need to take the child as the child is. You need to start listening. Do more of listening, non-judgmental listening. You know, as parents, we're very quick to judge our children. We're very quick to give advices, and there are times your child might actually come to you just to talk. And you're like, so what were you doing? When we are quick to judge. So during this stage, we are not meant to judge. We are meant to listen. When you listen to them, they would always come back to you. But the moment you jump and you attack and you assume, you've just shut your channel of communication. Your child wouldn't come to you, and you're like, but you are not talking to me. Now why are you not talking to me? The child will not come to you again. So you need to have that open channel of communication. take the child as he is. Then another thing parents should know is that due to the pressure from peers, pressure from the society, pressure from the home, your child might be under a lot of pressure to either fit in school, fit in with his peers, in pressure to meet up with your own demands as parents. And these are things that might actually cause mental health disorders for them, like depression and all that. So please reduce your expectation. You should, that times we expect so much from our children. Even my son would say, "Mommy, you expect so." I know we expect so much from them, but we should be able to change our expectation. Let's adjust our expectation. There are children, although they are big, they are, they have all these models and all that. The girls are already filling up, but they are still children. Their brain is still developing. So because of that, you need to reduce the expectation you have of them. There are certain things they might not be able to do, and there are certain things they should be able to do. Now, when it comes to discipline, at this stage, discipline is no more beating. Discipline is not shouting. Discipline is more of you correcting and you influencing. What are you doing as a parent? You are the child's role model. If you are saying one thing and you are doing another thing, the child, you are just fooling yourself. Because the child says, mommy is not serious. Well, so why is she telling me not to do? Why is she telling me to drop my phone when she's always on her phone?
Are we age mates?
No, you are the role model. You are the role model. And because you are the role model, your child would always look up to you. Despite the fact that they are not talking to you, but they'll still look up to you as a parent. So you need to be a better role model to them.
Right.
Then when talking about mental health, I'll just give like 5 tips that parents need to act that you can do. Number 1, you need to know that your child's mental health is as important as his physical health. So what are the things happening around him? Try to talk to the child. Try to assess that the child is not getting involved in any risky or self-harming behavior. If the child is not involved in that, then try to listen to the child. Try to listen. If you notice, I've been saying a lot about listening, because one of the complaints about teenagers or adolescents is that my parents do not listen. My parents are not available for me to talk to. So because of that, the next person available is the person they will talk to, which could be their friends, which could be a neighbor, which could be someone that might derail them.
Number 2
is first is to assess. The second one is to listen. Number 3 is you should give them reassurance. You need to reassure them that you're there for them. Whatever things they might be going through, whatever thing is happening around them, it's not their fault. You need to reassure them. You need to let them know that you are there for them. If you need to give them instructions, give them instructions. If you need to help them out or solve 1 or 2 things
but
for them.
just keep reaffirming
that you are there. Because the thing about teenagers that they are craving for our attention and our love. And the moment you don't give them this love in the home, the next person that gives them that attention and love,
off they go.
And that's why you have teenage pregnancy. That's why you have girls getting involved into relationship and premarital sex. You have guys trying to, prove themselves that they are mature and all that. So you have to be there. You have to keep talking with them.
So
you have to reassure. Then the 4th is that you need to encourage them to seek help for themselves. Teach them to be resilient. Teach them grit. There are certain things that they should be able to do. And what is resilience? Resilience simply means your ability to bounce back when you hit a wall or challenge. Encourage them that you can do it. You have the ability to become better. You have the ability to do much more than you're doing. So whatever mistake you've done in the past, it's gone. Move ahead. You can become better. And the 4th or the 5th is if you realize that after all the steps, your child is still in that mood of being depressed, then you need to seek professional help.
That's where we'll draw the curtain on the show today. Thank you, Oluwatoyin Ogunkanmi.
Thank you
She's
for
a
having me.
psychologist, the convener of the parenting support system, and the author of the book Smart Parenting. And who is that stranger in my
home?
house?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, for you to do all the 5 things that she mentioned, you need to be mentally stable. Your mental health is important in the total upbringing of your child. It's not easy, but it is doable. Start by identifying your trigger. What are those things that gets you angry? Calm down and begin to handle them from another point of view. All right, so thank you so much. That's the show for today. I'll be with you again next week with another guest and another topic. We just need to make society better, beginning with us as parents. Bye-bye.
I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't choose, you want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't choose, you want me, take my hand.